Let me tell you something most men overlook. When a woman lives without a man, she doesn't just survive, she transforms. Now listen carefully. If you've ever walked away from a good woman, thinking she'd crumble without you, you better think again. Because what starts as silence in her world becomes the sound of awakening. She starts seeing clearly, not with pain, but with peace. Not with bitterness, but with boundaries. And if you're a man watching this, you need to understand what happens behind those quiet eyes when she no longer needs validation from a relationship. You need to hear this, because the next time you meet a woman who's been alone, know this: she's stronger, she's sharper, and she doesn't play games. You want to know what really happens in her mind? Why she no longer answers your late night texts? Why she seems untouchable, unreadable, and uninterested in average? Then stick with me. Because what I'm about to reveal will change the way you look at her silence, her strength, and her standards. This isn't about bashing men. This is about understanding what solitude does to a woman's soul. Stay till the end, because by the time we're done, you either respect her more or realize she's already forgotten you. Let's get into it. When a woman lives without a man, one of the most profound changes that happens in her mind is the growth of emotional independence. This shift doesn't come overnight. It's forged through silence, reflection, and often pain. But over time, something powerful begins to awaken in her. She realizes that the emotional safety she once sought in someone else must now be created within herself. She no longer needs someone to tell her she's enough, because she starts believing it on her own terms. You see, when she wakes up alone every day and still manages to handle her business, fight her battles, pay her bills, and face the world, she starts building something most people never talk about: emotional muscle. At first, she might struggle. She might miss the company, the comfort, the conversations that used to fill the empty spaces. But as those days pass and she keeps standing, she starts to recognize the quiet strength she's building. She begins to trust herself in a way she never did before. Gone are the days when she crumbled at the absence of a good morning text or needed someone to tell her she mattered. She starts validating herself. She doesn't wait for a man to compliment her dress. She puts it on, looks in the mirror, and says, "Damn, I look good today." And when she cries, she learns how to wipe her own tears without needing a shoulder to lean on. Not because she's cold or doesn't feel, but because she understands that healing comes from within, not from a savior. Emotional independence also means she no longer sacrifices her peace to keep someone else happy. She recognizes that her feelings are just as important. She begins to protect her heart with wisdom instead of desperation. Her standards rise, not out of arrogance, but out of experience. She's been broken. Yes, but now she's building herself back with bricks made of self, love, and self-respect. When conflict comes, she doesn't explode. She responds. She's mastered her emotions. Her love is no longer impulsive or needy. It's deliberate and strong. She knows how to give, but more importantly, she knows how to walk away if her soul feels compromised. And that's the kind of woman who doesn't just attract love. She demands a higher version of it. Most people misunderstand her strength. They say she's too independent, too hard, or too guarded. But what they don't see is the journey it took for her to get there. They don't see the nights she sat in silence, confronting every piece of herself she used to ignore. They don't understand the way to becoming her own anchor. Emotional independence isn't about shutting men out. It's about never allowing someone else to be the sole source of her happiness again. When a woman lives without a man, her priorities begin to shift in a deeply transformative way. In the absence of constant emotional negotiations, compromises, or the need to accommodate someone else's dreams, she starts to tune into her own. Her life, once perhaps shaped around a relationship or the expectations of others, begins to revolve around her own purpose, passions, and personal healing. And when that happens, everything changes. The way she moves, the way she thinks, and most importantly, the way she sees herself. She no longer waits for someone to offer her a direction. Instead, she starts charting her own course. The energy she once spent trying to keep a relationship alive, pleasing someone, or fixing something that was broken, now gets redirected. Suddenly, that energy becomes fuel for her goals, her vision, her growth. She starts asking herself different questions. Not, what does he want from me? But, what do I want from my life? That internal shift becomes the foundation of something unstoppable. Career. She starts pouring into it, not just to pay the bills, but to build something of her own. Health. She gets serious about it, not to look good for a man, but to feel powerful in her own skin. Friendships. She becomes more selective, not just surrounding herself with people, but with people who pour into her soul. Her calendar becomes her sanctuary. Every minute is intentional, every decision made through a lens of self-respect. This isn't selfishness, it's survival. A woman without a man learns the value of peace over performance. She no longer feels the pressure to be everything to someone else. That pressure is replaced by purpose. And in that process, she learns how to breathe again, how to wake up without anxiety, how to rest without overthinking, how to enjoy her own company without needing validation. Her mind clears. Her heart settles. Her instincts sharpen. She begins to heal in silence, and that healing guides her choices. She may dive into a new hobby, start a business, go back to school, travel, or simply learn how to be still. But whatever she chooses, it's hers. Every step she takes becomes intentional. She stops chasing and starts attracting. She stops begging and starts building. She stops explaining herself and starts expanding. When a woman's priorities shift, you'll see it not just in her schedule, but in her spirit. Her boundaries tighten, her standards rise, and her time becomes sacred. She's no longer impressed by attention. She values respect. She doesn't just want love. She wants alignment. And if a man re-enters her life, he's got to come correct. Because now, she's living life on her terms. And any relationship must enhance her growth, not interrupt it. When a woman lives without a man, something shifts in the way she views trust. It no longer comes freely. It becomes something sacred, something earned through consistency, not charm. See, when she's been alone long enough, especially after being let down, manipulated, or taken for granted, she learns the hard truth. Not everyone who smiles at you has good intentions. She's no longer moved by sweet words or grand gestures. She watches actions now. She listens with her eyes more than her ears. That trust she used to hand out so easily. It's guarded now, not behind a wall of bitterness, but behind a gate of wisdom. Experience taught her that giving someone access to her heart too quickly can cost her peace, her self-worth, and sometimes even her identity. She's been through the cycle, trusting too soon, giving too much, and being left with too little. So now, she chooses differently. She understands that trust isn't love. Trust is proof. And proof only comes with time. When she was younger, maybe she believed in potential. Maybe she saw red flags and painted them white. But not anymore. Now, she notices the little things, how a man talks about his past, how he treats people who can't benefit him, whether his words align with his actions. And she's not afraid to walk away early, because the moment something feels off, she trusts herself first. That's the biggest shift. She trusts herself more than anyone else. She no longer silences her intuition to keep someone around. She no longer ignores her discomfort to avoid confrontation. Her inner voice becomes her compass, and that voice has been sharpened by silence, solitude, and reflection. She knows what betrayal feels like. She knows what manipulation looks like dressed up as love. And she's not going back. A woman who has lived without a man learns that trusting someone else starts with trusting her own judgment. And that means she's more cautious, more observant, but also more peaceful. Because when trust becomes earned, not given, she stops giving pieces of herself to people who haven't proven they deserve it. She stops investing her time in men who talk a good game, but never show up when it counts. It might seem like she's guarded. It might even look like she's hard to reach. But the truth is, she just values her peace more than a promise. She'd rather wait alone than build with someone whose foundation is shaky. Her trust is no longer a gift. It's a reward. And only the man who shows up with integrity, patience, and consistency will ever receive it. When a woman lives without a man, her mind becomes a place of quiet observation. She begins to see more and speak less. She's no longer quick to react, respond, or reveal. Instead, she studies everything, every word, every silence, every shift in energy. She no longer needs to prove herself, explain her worth, or fill up space with unnecessary conversation. That stillness she carries, it's not emptiness, it's awareness. In the past, she may have felt pressure to speak, to explain her feelings, to fight for understanding. But living without a man teaches her that not every emotion needs an audience. She learns that real power is in restraint, that the less she says, the more she learns. Because when she steps back and stops trying to be heard, she starts to hear everything. People show their truth through their consistency, their absence, their tone, their timing, and she catches it all. This shift isn't about bitterness. It's about clarity. She's no longer driven by the need to be seen or validated. Her silence doesn't come from fear. It comes from control. She speaks when it matters, and when she speaks, people listen. Because every word carries weight. She's done explaining things to people who are committed to misunderstanding her. She's done wasting breath on those who never intended to change. She's no longer in the business of defending her heart. She's in the business of protecting it. And when she meets someone new, she doesn't rush in. She observes. Not with suspicion, but with discernment. She pays attention to the little things. How someone talks about their ex. How they treat the waiter. How they handle stress. Because those things reveal more than declarations of love ever could. Her eyes have become her greatest tool. While others try to impress her, she's quietly scanning for authenticity, for alignment, for truth. She's learned that words are cheap and time is expensive. So, instead of wasting time explaining herself to people who don't deserve her depth, she saves her energy. She only opens up when she feels safe. And that safety doesn't come from charm. It comes from consistency. This mindset makes her mysterious to some, intimidating to others, and powerful to everyone. Because in a world that moves too fast, she chooses to move with intention. She doesn't react to drama. She doesn't chase closure. She doesn't need to be understood by everyone, just respected by the right ones. Her silence is not a void. It's a filter. And it keeps the noise out while letting clarity in. When a woman lives without a man, her voice becomes quieter, but her vision becomes sharper. She sees through games, through lies, through manipulation. And while others are busy talking, she's busy knowing. She's learned that real strength is calm, real wisdom is quiet, and real love, that doesn't need to be shouted. It shows up quietly, clearly, and without confusion. When a woman lives without a man, she begins to build walls, not to shut the world out, but to protect the parts of herself that took years to heal. These walls aren't made of bitterness or anger. They're made of lessons. Every brick represents a moment when she gave too much, trusted too soon, or stayed too long. And now, with no one there to distract her from her truth, she starts reconstructing herself from the inside out. Not to keep love away, but to make sure chaos never gets a free pass again. She used to be wide open, vulnerable, willing to give the best of herself without asking if someone deserved it. But being alone taught her that vulnerability is not a free gift, it's a privilege. Now, she doesn't let just anyone in. The door to her soul has a lock, and the key is character. That doesn't mean she's cold. It means she's wise. Because once you've been shattered by betrayal, abandonment, or emotional manipulation, you don't just open up because someone shows interest. You open up because someone shows consistency. That mental wall she builds isn't to isolate herself. It's to preserve her peace. Her boundaries become stronger, clearer, and non-negotiable. She no longer fears being misunderstood because she no longer needs to be understood to feel whole. She's done over-explaining, done overextending, done watering others while she wilts. That version of her is gone. Now she protects her energy like it's sacred, because it is. And when someone tries to get close, she doesn't push them away, but she doesn't rush to let them in either. She watches, she measures, she evaluates. Because now she understands that people show you who they are early. You just have to be still enough to see it. Her emotional walls aren't a sign of damage. They're a sign of healing. She's no longer trying to be the woman who can handle everything. She's trying to be the woman who refuses to handle what hurts her. These walls, this caution, it might look like she's guarded, but the truth is, she's grounded. She knows her worth. She knows her limits. And she knows what she's no longer willing to tolerate. She doesn't mistake attention for affection or words for worth. She's not impressed by promises, only by presence. Living without a man taught her how to give herself the love she used to beg for. Now, any man who enters her life must match that standard. Not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. Because she's no longer in the business of being someone's lesson. She's the woman who learned hers. And those walls, they're not barriers to love. They're proof that she finally loves herself enough to not settle for less. When a woman lives without a man, the world assumes she must be lonely. But the truth is, she's not lonely, she's selective. There's a difference, and it's a powerful one. She's not sitting around waiting for someone to rescue her, complete her, or validate her existence. She's choosing her peace over pressure, her purpose over distraction, and her self-worth over temporary comfort. She's not avoiding love. She's avoiding the wrong kind of love. And that choice transforms everything about her mindset. Being alone teaches her that happiness isn't something that comes from another person. It's something she builds within herself, piece by piece. She finds joy in the quiet moments, her morning coffee, her favorite playlist, the smell of fresh air after a long walk. She laughs louder, sleeps better, and breathes deeper. Not because there's a man by her side, but because she finally feels safe within her own skin. She doesn't need company to feel complete. Her life is full because she filled it. And now, when someone new comes along, she doesn't cling, She evaluates. She doesn't chase. She observes. She's not afraid of being single because she's already built a life that makes her proud. Her standard isn't perfection. It's peace. If a man disrupts that peace, he's gone. If he adds confusion instead of clarity, she steps back. If he shows inconsistency, she doesn't confront. She disconnects. Because she's no longer entertaining anyone who doesn't match the life she worked hard to create. You might think she's hard to get, that she's closed off, uninterested, or even intimidating. But the truth is, she just knows exactly what she brings to the table. And because she built that table herself, she's not about to let anyone sit at it who brings crumbs. She's done lowering her standards just to feel loved. Now, love must rise to meet her. This kind of woman doesn't fall for promises. She pays attention to patterns. She doesn't care about how much someone likes her. She wants to know how they treat her when she says no, when she sets a boundary, when she takes her time. Because being alone taught her how to protect her energy like it's her lifeline. Because it is. She's selective because she's healed. Because she's self-aware. Because she's tasted peace. And once you've tasted peace, the chaos becomes unacceptable. She has no fear of starting over, walking alone, or letting go. The thought of being with someone just to fill space, that doesn't tempt her anymore. She'd rather wait 10 years for the right man than settle for a single day with the wrong one. She's not lonely. She's evolved. She's not waiting. She's watching. And when the time is right, she won't fall in love blindly. She'll choose it carefully, consciously, and completely on her terms. So what truly happens in a woman's mind when she lives without a man? She grows. She grows. She rises. Not in spite of being alone, but because of it. Her solitude becomes her strength. Her silence becomes her sanctuary. And her standards, they become unshakable. She's no longer desperate for love. She's devoted to peace. No longer afraid of walking alone. She's empowered by it. And if a man enters her life now, he doesn't complete her. He complements what she's already built. To the woman listening, protect your peace. Honor your growth. And never shrink to fit into spaces that don't deserve your presence. And to the man listening, if you're lucky enough to meet a woman who's learned to stand on her own, know this, you're not dealing with the same version of her the world once broke. You're standing in front of a woman who rebuilt herself. And she'll never settle for anything less than real. That's what happens when a woman lives without a man. She becomes a force, not just to love, but to earn.